Great. So, this is our first of many cactus chats, hopefully. And I have with me here Dan Neslusen, and he spent 2 weeks working with Huachuma here at Cinco Medicos. And we just wanted to chat a little bit about your experience and why you came to the medicine. Maybe you could tell us a little bit of your story and what you got out of this experience.
Sure. Um, I I came to the medicine partly because I learned about it from you, um, but plant medicine in general is something I've been interested in for a few years now. I had more of a uh, party experience with psychedelics previously to that, beginning from college, and sort of slowly stopped using them over a few years. And then in 2019, I tried microdosing for the first time, and it kind of changed my approach to psychedelics. And I realized that it could be a tool for healing, and even beyond psychedelics, I've learned there's lots of other plant medicines and alternative health methods that can really help me improve myself, improve the path that I want to be walking. And I haven't been hesitant to try a lot of different modalities. And I found Huachuma to be very beautiful, um, and I'm glad that I found my way to it.
Beautiful. So, what was it like working with a plant for 2 weeks rather than just here and there like mushrooms or, like you said, the more social or party environment of LSD or something like that?
I found it to be a very, very different and healing and building experience. I feel like every ceremony that I've had has built upon the things that I've learned about myself from the previous sessions, and that I've sort of developed a relationship with the Wachuma. I especially noticed the reaction in my body after the first ceremony was pretty rough, and then the final ceremony, my body seemed much more ready to accept it and work with it. Um, that both in regards to how the medicine felt heavy within my body, and then also how I was able to. The first couple times I tried it, I had a little bit of nausea, as just in the first couple hours as the medicine was taking effect, that I noticed had basically completely disappeared by the end of the second week.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe we could talk a little bit more about the ceremony experience itself and whatever you're comfortable sharing, obviously. Um, what kind of healing did you experience?
Um, so I've actually, a lot of it relates to a course that I took leading up to this. That was a group online course that dealt with a lot of different uh, healing modalities that you can work on yourself, through different forms of meditation, different kinds of study, and it's it was really helpful to work these two together, because I feel like a lot of the work that I was able to see with Wachuma is going to be very applicable to my life outside of retreat. And that I feel like is a big difference, and a big advantage over some of the other plant medicines I've tried. In particular, mushrooms specifically, it can feel like a really interesting experience, and you might be able to learn a lot. But it's sometimes harder to then go back to your life the next day and say, how do I work that into my everyday?
Right. So, like, easier to integrate, and it almost integrates as the ceremony is happening.
Yes, yeah, I think that's part of the effect of the medicine too. Is it's a very long experience, throughout the day, but because of that, it's less intense than like the peak of a mushroom experience, for instance, when you basically just want to lie on your back and look at the things in your mind.
Right.
It's it's much more about thinking how you can take things back with you, um, and it really is a teacher, and seems to give you what it is that you need, um, and speak to you in ways that you kind of have to pay a little bit more attention to, but that also that linger there and wait for you to give them attention.
Uh-huh. That's beautiful. So, how would you, now that you've had your first Huachuma experience, how would you describe Huachuma to someone who hasn't had it but may be interested or is considering this medicine among many others?
Um, well, I think that that description depends on the person's familiarity with some other experiences.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but as someone who was familiar with mushrooms before this, I think that's a good comparison because there are some similarities and differences. In regards to the changes to your consciousness during ceremony, there are some similarities to mushrooms, but I think the big differences are the length and intensity of the experience. It's not that it isn't intense, but I've described it as saying that Huachuma doesn't yell at me the way the mushrooms does.
I love that.
And I really feel that because sometimes mushrooms can help you have a realization about something in your life that you might not realize that you're not enjoying, and you want to stop. But it doesn't follow that up with how to stop it and how you can be okay with stopping it. The way that the Huachuma does go there, and it kind of holds your hand a little bit and says, you don't have to do this, and it's not. It's you don't focus on the past and say, oh, I was doing the wrong thing for so long, so much as you say, I don't have to do that anymore.
Right. I can make this choice now. I see it clearly, more objectively, with more compassion, and it gives you a path forward rather than just showing you what's wrong. Showing you possible solutions that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And so, do you think your previous experience with psychedelics and some, I guess, fungi prepared you better for this? Do you think that it's good to prepare with other psychedelics, or?
I think that entirely depends on the person.
Uh-huh.
For me, it was helpful because it helped give me a little bit of familiarity with knowing what I was getting into, especially with committing to 2 weeks of ceremony. I think if I had no experience with psychedelics, I could see how that would be a big leap to take.
Sure.
But also, the I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Well, so how would you describe Huachuma, like the spirit of the medicine? Because this is a living being. This is a plant with an incredible intelligence and level of consciousness. How would you describe that to people who may or may not be familiar with other plants or psychedelics?
Right, and that reminds me of what I was going to say earlier about if you do not have previous experience with psychedelics, I actually had a thought that this would be it could be a good introduction to the plant medicine world because of its gentleness.
Uh-huh.
So while it can be a big commitment to commit to anything that's unknown, I think Huachuma is a great introduction and can help you build a lot of calm and self-confidence that I feel like make me want to dive more into my own healing in the future and to continue that. And really, the spirit of Huachuma, I feel like, is really a lot of calmness. And
Peace.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and also some confidence as well that I think is related to that.
Right.
And by that I mean the confidence to continue this work and to carry the lessons forward into my life and make substantial changes.
Uh-huh.
But to do it, not in a way that's pushing away from the past, but moving into the future.
And so, if you looked at Dan before this experience versus Dan now and in the future, do you see a big difference or delta between where you were before you came here and where you're going, or where you feel you are now?
Yeah, I think before this, I'd taken this class beforehand and intellectually done a lot of work Um, I'd done a lot of reading, a lot of thinking, but a lot of it I was really intellectualizing and keeping in my head. And another thing Huachuma is great with is helping you stay connected to your body, and that's something that I hope to take forward with me as sort of an anchor, because I was realizing the difference between this kind of retreat and a mushroom experience, for instance, is you can really feel detached from reality in some of those cases, and it can be hard to pull the nuggets of wisdom out.
Right.
Um,
Right. And we hold ceremonies in nature, so
mhm.
you're very much connected to the real world, the here and now on this planet Earth,
Yes, yeah.
versus going somewhere and like, well, okay, and then coming back and landing the spaceship.
hmm
So,
and now I have those anchors of nature and of feeling connected to my body to remind me, nature's all around us, and I'm going to take my body everywhere I go with me in
yeah,
life.
absolutely, so true. And you can use nature as medicine to reconnect with Huachuma. It's even if you don't have Huachuma in you, you have the spirit in you. You have the ally of the plant, and you can go into nature, and that will help to ground you.
Yeah, I mean, I spend a fair amount of time in nature, but I've spent more these past couple weeks during ceremony, and also that time that I've been there has been differently. It's spent differently because a lot of times I'm going on hikes, which is just constant movement, and it's like there's a goal of like let's do this loop and then
Right.
go home. With
Yeah.
Huachuma, there's less of a there are certainly goals, but it's less directed,
Uh-huh.
and it's especially with how long the experience is. You've just got plenty of time to do all the things you want to do in nature, whether it's just sit and listen or meditate, and and honestly just enjoy lots of things. I saw some really beautiful things in nature this week that I have never seen before. And
Good.
I think that'll cause me to pay more attention now
Uh-huh.
when I'm in nature to look for the beauty.
Right. Right. And so how vital do you think being in nature is to the healing experience with this medicine in particular?
Um, so it's very helpful, but also I don't know if it's necessarily essential,
Mm.
because at the end of ceremonies we'd come back indoors and I would still be feeling some effects from the medicine, and I got some out of that too. Um, so I think nature really it's more about shutting out the distractions of the everyday world.
Uh-huh.
So I realize there's probably other ways to do that than
Sure.
nature, but nature is everywhere, and
Right.
it's easy to do that as long as you've got a comfortable place to be.
Right, and other ceremonies have sound healing or Icaros or anything like that, and like you said, the key is to focus on your own process, and so anything that allows or fosters being able to do that is a good approach or modality. Yeah. Well, great. Is there anything you'd like to add? Any parting message to people who might hear or listen to this? It's been a pleasure working with you, and yeah, any advice or words of wisdom you have for other people?
Um, it's been a real treat to be here, and I thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
And I would say that the advice I can give is for everyone to do the research that you feel like you have to do, and follow your heart.
Mm, lovely. Well, that's a perfect place to close it. Thank you, Dan. Thank you guys for watching, and good luck with your healing journey. And if you need to be in touch, you can visit my website at cincomedicos.com or email me at cinco.medicos@protonmail.com. Take care.